Hello everyone, it's Amy and I am here for week 22 of Build Your Stash and Craft. And this week I'm going to show you how to make ribbon fans. And you can use this for the fronts of cards, you can use it for the tops of boxes, any type of decoration that you want to. If you had very small tiny ribbon, you could even make a small little cabochon with this on it. So this is what we're going to make this week. And on this one, I left it like this before gluing it down. This has the double-sided tape on it, and this is cardstock folded over. And so, you know, it has a little bit of pulling strength. But the double-sided tape is not holding down this really well. So what I'm going to do is I will go in and I will put some glue under there. But I wanted to leave it like that to remember to show you that your edges, you're going to want to put a little bit of glue on. So I made this circle template by just taking, this is a lid to a nut jar actually, and I just put it on my paper, and then I took my razor knife and just put it out a little bit, and then I just went around it on my cutting board. So that's how I got the circle. Today I'm going to make a square. They're all done exactly the same. But I'm going to make a square because I want to put it on top of a box. So this is the paper that I have chosen to use. I thought that that would look kind of pretty with the colors that I had picked out for my ribbons. And this is the box that my husband just got, this little box yesterday. And I'm going to put a lid on it with that. And I think that that will look pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of line this box up with my paper. I lost my pencil. So that my paper lines up with it. Maybe I'll even make it, maybe I'll cut it just a little bit bigger than that too, just to give me a little bit of room to play with. And so the only reason I did that was because I want this to fit on top of my box. I didn't want it to be way too big or way too small. And so with having these lines, knowing exactly how big my box is, I'll know how big that I want to make it. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a ruler and I'm going to cut. Now I have to decide, let's see, if I do a whole inch, that would be here. I think an inch would be good. I'm going to cut this an inch all the way around. I don't know why I'm flipping it around. I have to cut every side. So I'm going to line this up. I have the 2-inch mark right here, and this is 6 3/8. So I need to stop at 5 3/8. There's 2 there, so I'm going to start at 3. And then I'm going to stop at 5 3/8. And that should give me an inch. Okay, I'm going to line this one up with 3. Line it up with the edge of my paper. What did I do here? Oh, my ruler is wider than an inch, and I lined the edge of my ruler up there. So that is what I did wrong. So on each end, I'm going to wind up having, do it this way so my inches are in. On each end, I'm going to wind up being an inch, about 1 1/4 inches wide. But since I've already cut this one on each side, it's going to be an inch. But that's just the way that it happened, so that's the way that we are going to do it. Start at 3, end at 5 3/8. And then because I cut this crooked, I'm going to need to just go from my line to my line. Watch your fingers. Don't let your ruler slide. I actually should have put my ruler that has the tape on it behind here. And I'm just going from where it's already cut to where it's already cut. I don't think that you can see that, but actually even I was having a hard time seeing it. From there to there. And if it's not straight, oh well, it's all right. Nobody will tell. And there we go. Okay, so all you need to do is cut some form of a space in your paper. There's a name for that. Can't think of it right now. You can cut a circle, a square. You could cut a heart in the middle. That would be pretty. You could fold your paper in half and just cut a heart in the middle. And all of that would be really pretty. Now, once this is the top of our paper, so we're going to turn it over. And then we are going to take our double-sided tape. And we're going to put it around, all the way around. Don't lose your tape, it's really hard to find. Make sure that you get it stuck good back on your little cutter part before you let go. Because it's hard to find regular tape, but when this stuff sticks to itself, it's even worse. Now, actually, I pulled this piece really large. I don't want it sticking way out to the very edge. So I'm going to just cut a little bit of that off. And on my first side, I just put a little piece, so I need to add some more right there. All right, so what we've done now is the aperture, this I think what it's called, the aperture that we cut into our cardstock. We have now gone all the way around it with our tape. And then what we're going to do is we are going to start with our ribbon. Now, I may not get these all exactly the right length. Like, I mean, I might waste a little bit here because I'm kind of hurrying, but take your time so that you don't really waste your ribbon. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on an angle right here in the corner. And I want to make sure that my corners of my ribbon are on the cardstock. I don't want them to be out here in the middle. And there's what our first piece looks like. Now you don't want to go right straight with each other. You're going to want to put your next ribbon halfway across the bottom and then pretty close to the top. You still want to overlap it a little bit, but at the bottom, you're just going to go across half of your ribbon, and at the top, you are going to come almost to the edge. Now, I had to move my top over a little bit to make sure that the corner of my ribbon was on my cardstock and not sticking out here. If the corners of your cardstock or the corners of your ribbon are out here, it will look sloppy. And then this is what it looks like. So see, it's smaller and then it gets bigger as you go. And so that's what you do. You overlap it halfway and then approximately even at the top. And, you know, kind of hold your ribbon up there and see how tall you need it to be. Because I always tend to cut way too much ribbon and then that's just wasteful. But you can use those little bits for other things too. So here I'm going to go halfway. And then close to the edge at the top. And see, now that was too long. And you want to try and keep it a little bit away from the edge of your paper so that you have a place to glue it all down when you're done. Because that's going to hold it all together. So this is what we've got so far. And we'll just continue going like that. I was going to say something. No, I forgot what. But just continue going halfway, and I want to cut this one right about here. If you cut a piece that's too short, you hold it up there and it's like, oh man, don't worry about it, set it aside, because you're going to probably need one later that's that short. So just set it aside and cut another one. So we're going close to the top and about halfway at the bottom. Oh, and that's what I was going to say. You know, when you're down here, you're not getting glued onto the ribbon because there's nothing there to stick it to. That's okay, because you're going to put a backing on it. So don't worry about that. Don't think that you have to glue all those little flaps down, or that you have to go in and put little pieces of tape there. I do like to kind of flip mine over as I go just to see how it's coming along. Make sure that I'm doing things correctly before I get all the way to the other end and find out that I messed up at the beginning. But there's really not much messing up to do. I'm just a little bit picky sometimes on my spacing, and I'm learning to stop doing that if they're not exact. See, now this one I overlapped a lot. I might want to move that. But then again, it looks okay. I think what I'm going to do is my next pink one, I'm going to bring in really close like that, and then I'm going to change directions. So it will look like I did that green one on purpose. That's the whole thing. Everything can be fixed. This ribbon doesn't really have a right or a wrong side, but that is one thing to watch for. If your ribbon has a right side and a wrong side, in other words, one side's shiny and the other side is flat, make sure that you always put the shiny side or the flat side up. And so there we go. Now you can just continue doing that to complete a whole fan, or you can come in, and I'm going to come in from the other direction so that we have actually two ways to go. Now I am going to put tape on this piece of ribbon because I need some place for my others to stick to. So now that I've gone as far as I'm going to go there, I'm going to put that tape on there. I'm going to cut a piece of the green. And I don't want to go and do this off screen because I think that I like to see things kind of repetitive. So I'm going to come over a little bit so that my ribbon is starting about halfway from, and that's the thing, be careful, don't stick yourself to the double-sided tape. Now, by doing that, I messed my ribbon up a little bit, so I'm going to peel it off and then just lay it back down. That is the nice thing about using this cheap double-sided tape, is it does release fairly well. If you make a mistake, you can peel your stuff off and you'll be okay. Okay, I'm just going to take this one halfway and then almost to the edge. And see, I could even save a little bit of ribbon there. I don't really need to go that whole line. Oops, and as I go across, they're going to get shorter and shorter. Halfway and almost to the edge. Let's see what this is looking like. And so that's what it's looking like so far. You can do this not only with ribbon, but you can do this with paper. You can do it with, any size ribbon that you want to. The wider the ribbon, if you have a real wide ribbon, you're going to want a large piece. Because putting let's say a 1-inch ribbon on this, you would get about maybe 2 strips or 3 strips going across, and you'd be about done. So the wider the ribbon, the larger the space. The smaller the space that you have, you might want to have a little bit of smaller ribbon. So I need to get a move on here, so I'm not keeping you all day, but we'll get this all done. And then I'll show you how to finish it off. Again, halfway. I'm going to just need one more piece. Give that a look. And that looks good. And this is just going to need to be a very small piece. And there we go. There it is. And then we're going to take that and we're going to make a box top and put it on the top of this box. So now that we've got that done, what I like to do is I just like to take some of my double-sided tape. You can do this with double-sided. Now that we've got that done, what I like to do is I just like to take some of my double-sided tape. You can do this with double-sided tape. You can do it with ribbon, or with ribbon. I like to just take some of my double-sided tape and just glue that down. Stick it down. And then we're going to put a piece of paper on the top of this, but I like to only put my glue around the edges. I don't like to put my glue on the inside, the part that you would see here, because that glue will seep through your ribbon. So when you're putting glue on, make sure that you keep it outside of the aperture, outside of your cutout spot. But the tape works really well, and being that it's so cheap, you know, you're really not wasting it to put this on here. It will make everything hold solid. And then we're going to put a piece of cardstock behind this, just to kind of hold the whole thing together, make it nice and solid. But if you did this on a really small area with really small ribbon, you know, you could back it with something and put a little edging around it and use it as an embellishment. Like I said, you don't have to do it with ribbon. You can do it with 2 different colors of paper. You can do it with more colors. The more colors that you use, sometimes, as far as, this is my opinion, I think it gets a little bit busy if you use too many colors. I think with just the 2 colors, it's so easy to see, especially if you want to go in 2 directions. Like I said, you could have taken this one all the way across, or you could have had that one going that way, like a sunburst, in yellows and oranges. Okay, I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock to fit the bottom of this, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry for that little bit of repeat on the video, but my video was too long and I had to upload it in 2 parts, and there wasn't much overlap, so I just left it. I just wanted to show you because, you know, this is covered with double-sided tape on the other side, so you know when it's sitting on your table and you take a piece of paper and you sit it on top of there, it's not coming off, so it doesn't quite line up right there, and I'm right in the middle of my paper, but it's not coming off, so I don't have a choice but to just trim it this way. So I'm just going to, now normally what I would do is I would, when this was upside down, before I put my paper on it, I would put a little bit of glue around the edges of this before I stuck it, and then it would stick to the tape, and the backing would stick to the tape and to the glue. And that glue would hold it so that there's no lift off. I gotta put my glasses on here. So it wouldn't lift up later, but I'm going to put something around the edges. I think probably I'm going to make some washi to put around the edges after I put it on the box top, so that's going to hold it down. I am now going to trim where my line was. There we go. Trim this one on the line too. And whenever you're drawing out something, you should always draw it on the back of your paper. Then you don't have to worry about whether or not those lines show, because they'll be on the back. But there we go. This is what I'm going to put on top of our box. And I just think that looks really pretty. It would look pretty on the front of a card, put a sentiment on it. You could do it either way. And I think that turned out really well. Now, in order to make the box top, what I'm going to do, set this aside. Okay, I just have a piece of my chipboard, and I'm going to take the flaps off the top of my box because I will not need those. And they'll just kind of be in the way. You can tape them down if you have a really thin box and you think that it needs to be a little more sturdy. I would tape them down and glue them down, inside or outside, either way. But this is a heavy cardboard box. I don't need to have any extra stability there. If this was a thin box like chipboard, then I might just put it down like this and tape around it, put glue under it, put it like this, put glue under it and tape around it, and that would give you a really sturdy top. But I think that I will probably, just to decorate up the top a little bit, or about to, you know, finish it off, I will probably put some homemade washi on there. I love the homemade washi because it sticks better. Sometimes when you're sticking it to paint, you need to put a little bit of glue underneath of it, but it sticks much better than the homemade, or than the store-bought washi. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my box, and what I've done is I've left the flap on my box, and I'm going to use that as my edging. And I want to do about 1 inch, so I'm going to measure 1 inch here. And to make it easier for me, I'm going to measure 1 inch plus that extra little space at the top. No, I can do 1 inch. Okay, so right there is 1 inch. I'm going to push it right up against that flap, just like that. And then I'm going to draw here, and draw here, and draw over here. And I know the other side of my box is up against this flap. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 inch all the way around and cut it out. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch, come back and mark another one. And then I'm going to draw the lines across here. I just like to have 3 marks. You can do it in as many as you want to. Now when you're lining up with your fold, there's like a bump there. You need to make sure you either line up on one side of it or the other so that all of your marks are the same. So I'll line my 1 inch right up at the inside of that line, of that fold. So that they're all about the same. And I know I've already got 1 inch on this side because that's where I drew my line. So we'll just draw the lines on this. Line up all 3 lines. Just like that. And then just cut it out on those lines. That will give us a 1 inch fold over flap, or 1 inch edge, I guess I should say, on our box top lid. And the reason I did it right here on the fold is that's one less place that I have to score it. One less place I have to fold it. So now I like the inside being the chipboard. I probably will not finish the inside. Maybe I'll paint it. I don't know. So I am going to make the side with the paint on it is going to be my outside. And then all you do is hold your ruler on that line, just like that. I just use my scissors closed and just run them down that line a couple of times. I've got that a little bit off. You need your ruler to be just a little inside the line to account for the width of your scissors. And that's just scoring it so that it's easier to fold on that line. And then I'm just watching as I fold it to make sure it's folding where I want it to. If not, I'll just rescore it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the ends. Just inside my line. Score all the way across. Give that a fold on my line. And the last one. Then we're going to set it on top of our box and make sure that it fits before we glue it together. Okay, now one more thing before we put it on top of our box. We're going to, on the long end, and it really doesn't matter, you can do it long side, short side. we are going to cut on that score line just to the next line. And don't cut the corners out, because otherwise you'll have a hard time getting it to glue together. And there we go. So then we'll be able to take these little flaps and fold them inside and glue them right inside there, just like that. Give this a really good fold. And then I'm just going to kind of hold it together, just like that. I'm going to take my box and I'm going to see if that fits. Because you would hate to put your whole thing together and find out that it doesn't fit. And that fits very nicely. So now I will go ahead and sand, because I'm going to want to paint this or something, and your paint is not going to want to stick to this shiny paint on here. So I just have here, this is a toilet paper roll, and I stuff it with newspaper, stuff it with any junk paper, whatever. And then I just use that to hold on to my sandpaper. It makes it much easier for me to hold it that way. And it gives a really large surface. You don't have to take all of the paint off. You just need to get it roughed up enough. And I'm going to turn my sandpaper just a little bit. You want it roughed up enough for the paint to stick. And for the glue to stick. Turn a little this way. Seems like I'm still real shiny right here. There we go. Got it done. Now the one thing you're going to want to do is take a damp towel and wipe that off to get all of that. Let's see if I've got a piece of paper towel here. You just want all of that sanding dust off, because that also, your glue is not going to want to stick to real well. Okay, and then we're just going to take these little tiny flaps. And get some good amount of glue on them. Where's my glue holder? I did put that in there without the top on it. But I did that because I know that it's just going to be a minute before I use it again. And it's pretty much empty. You're going to want to make sure when you put your glue in your glue holder, do put your lid on it. Otherwise, it'll just drip all over your table. Okay. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, let's see, what do I have here? Easy to reach. Okay. Let's see if these little clothespins will hold it. Otherwise, I will use my... Now make sure that you don't push your sides in too far, because you want that lid to fit. So make sure that your sides are out to the edge. If you've got a little bit sticking out here, because you put that out to the edge, you can always trim that off later. And then just take something like one of your little clothespins. Whoops. I'm just going to use that as a clamp to hold that together while it's drying. And so I'm going to do that on all four corners, and then I will set this aside and clean up my mess here, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I let the four corners dry with the little clips on them. And because that's not a super strong sticky glue right away, those clips just help so much, so you're not standing there forever or having them loosen up when you're not looking. So I let that dry, and then I decided you probably didn't really want to watch me just paint a box. So I put 3 coats of pink on here. And this is just one of my, these are the paints that I got for the series. And the pink was almost translucent. I had to put 3 coats to cover that up. And then on the box bottom, I put the turquoise because I thought that those would look nice. They're not exactly the same colors, but it looks pretty nice together. And I just had to put 1 coat on this box. And then they could be decorated even more than that in other ways. One thing that I was able to do is as I was painting the edges, because remember I told you that this double-sided tape does not hold super good, the edges did start to lift a little bit in a few places. So I was able to peel it apart a little bit, the backing and the front, where the tape had stuck it together before I got a chance to put the glue on. And I was able to stick my glue down in all the way around, and then I stuck it in my dictionary with parchment paper on both sides so that it didn't stick. And let it dry while I was painting my boxes. So I didn't paint the center of my box. That would be just for me a waste of paint because it's going to be covered. And our ribbon fan fits very perfectly. I'm going to check it both ways. And I think it actually fits just a little bit better this way. So that's the way I'll try and remember to put it on. And all I'm going to do is glue it and tape it on. So, like I said, don't forget that you can do this with different color papers. So if you got a couple of ribbons and you're having a really good time at it, but you're thinking, well, I don't want a whole bunch all this same color, just go ahead and get a couple of colors of paper, cut them into strips, and remember, you don't need to cut it on an angled type strip. Just cut it into a straight rectangle and then overlap it. That would work the best anyways, trying to get an angle on it and then trying to overlap it. There wouldn't be much left to overlap. So give it a try with all sorts of things. If you have other little bits and bobs sitting around, like little bits of ribbon or whatever, you can put those on there and just go to town. Mother's Day is coming. You could use it to make a Mother's Day card. I have seen this ribbon thing done on YouTube quite a long time ago, but it is also, it's like a quilt that my mom used to make. I don't remember what it was, something fan, like Granny's fan or something, but it wasn't Granny's fan, because that's like Granny's Garden is the one that had the name Granny in it. But she used to make quilts like this, so she would have really, my mom would have really loved a card with this on the front. Now I've turned the box and everything, and I don't remember exactly which way it fit better. And I think it was that way. I'm so good at that. I'm always like moving things around going, how is that supposed to fit on there? There we go. And then I'm just going to go into the back and give it a press. And then what I'm going to do is I will put something heavy in here and put some parchment paper underneath of it and then let it sit. And this is really curving because this box is denting a lot while I was pushing on it. But there is our box top. I'm going to just move this a little bit. It's a little close. And then we just put our box top on our box bottom. There we go. And I think that turned out really neat. I love the ribbon fans. I also do like them made in paper, so I hope that you have fun trying this, and I will show you what we need for next week. can put this back up here so I have a white background, kind of white background. Oh, I was going to tell you too, a couple of other tips. Number one, in the bottom of the box, I did put a piece of cardstock just to cover up the flaps on the bottom, and depending on what I put in there, I didn't want them to get lost under the flaps. So I put that in and glued that in along with just a piece of chipboard, another piece of the cereal box I cut and put down first, and then I put the paper. Also, I decided not to put any edging on it. I might do that later. But the tape that was all the way around the box, I peeled that completely off. I glued this to the flaps that were inside. And then I set something heavy in there to keep it all together. And then I also put a piece of my tape just from here to here, because I knew I wasn't going to paint the bottom. That would just rub off anyways. So I just put the tape from there to there because your paint does not like to stick to that tape, and it will chip. Even if it sticks, it will rub off and chip off of the spots with the paint so much easier. So, and then I also did go around the edge of my card here with some purple marker, which is actually the same purple marker that I used to make this watercolor paper, so I knew it would match. And and rubber bands around. A nice way, I get these on my mail, and so if you have some rubber bands around, that's a good way to keep your ribbon together. I have tried it before with little bits of tape, which works just fine, but if you don't use it for a long time, it gets too sticky. And I've also put pins in it, but I find that they kind of want to come out. So if you just have a little rubber band and just roll up your ribbon, because I had this ribbon on the table and it was like all unwound and all over the place, and it was like, oh yeah, I wanted to just show you this because I don't know where I saw this. I'm sure I saw it from someone, but this works perfect because, like I said, I used to use, and then it got a little bit off, so all you do is just give it a pull because I don't want that to be all wrinkled later. There we go. So, alrighty. Those are the few tips that I wanted to give you. Now I'll show you what we need for next week. For next week, we're going to make glitter glue. I know we've made our shimmer glue, and but I do like the glitter glue too, so we're going to make some of that. Again, we will need a 8-pack storage container of these little containers. I've already made a couple, I always like try and make things ahead of time. And need a bottle of Mod Podge. You need either the gloss or the matte. I've made it before with the gloss. The matte is just not as shiny. So that's an option that's up to you. And so you are going to need a package of containers. I got these at the dollar store. 2 packages of your glitter. A little bottle of Mod Podge. And these are some little lock top snack pouches or whatever. Now these work really nice because 6 of these little jars will fit in here very nicely, and you get 3 containers. So you could use these for this. You could also use them for the glimmer glue, the glimmer paint and the glimmer glue that we made the other day, and so that you've got a place to store them that is also has a lock top with it, and it's kind of airtight. That just will help them last longer. So, and it will keep them from getting spilled and give you a place to store them so you'll know where they are. So that's what we're going to need. If you can't get like this little set, just see what they have. But if you could get, some kind of a small box, even a little sandwich, one of the little sandwich boxes, you could fit quite a few in one sandwich box. I couldn't find a sandwich box one that locked, and I wanted the lock kind. Just in case one of the little kids got into it or something. So you are going to need storage containers, Mod Podge, glitter. You can also get this glitter at Walmart, and it is a larger package, but it's $3. And I figured with these 2 packages, I can get red, I can get pink, I can get purple, yellow, green, turquoise, and blue. There's only 8 containers here, so I definitely could pick 8 colors that are different out of here that I like. And so that's what we will need for next week. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, spending our whole $5 for our glitter glue. Gotta love glitter, so Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy making some of, move that out of the way, making some of the ribbon fans. They really are fun to make and very easy too. Thanks again, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.